And we're live. Welcome to you, the viewer. Welcome to our fantastic panel. It's the after Dram, and that means it's time to unwind. It's time to put your feet up, grab a cocktail or two, and relax. Well, not just a cocktail or two. I also have a l'eau doux, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So, as a quick recap to our evening, Sheila, Blair, Davin, and I have been treated to a tour of Sebastien's distillery, Distillerie Fils du Roy in Petit-Paquetville, Nouveau-Brunswick. We are all now sitting together enjoying a much-anticipated beverage because it's been grueling work talking about this and drinking in the background. So we need this. It's needed. What I'd like to do is another round of introductions, please. Tell us what's in your glasses. And we'll do the same order we did before, Davin, Blair, and Sebastien, and then Sheila, if that's all right. So here we go. Davin, you're up.
I'm Davin, the Kergommeaux. I'm one of the people who wrote this book, The Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries, which is taking us on our tour across Canada with the Whisky Book Club. And I'm drinking a gin cocktail.
Excellent.
A gin smash, let's say.
A gin smash. Yum.
Blair Phillips, a co-author of the Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries. I'm having some bagasse. It was supposed to be a bagasse and soda. I don't have any lemon. I don't have any soda. So this is a traditional wedding bagasse right here.
And when do you want to tell the story about that? Do you want to tell it right away?
Oh, we'll come back.
We'll come back. All right. We'll come back. Sebastien.
I'm Sebastien Roy from Distillerie Fils du Roy in Petit-Paquetville, New Brunswick. And I'm drinking a San Pellegrino with gin touillard and a little bit of cranberry liquor.
That looks yummy. And Sheila.
Sheila Semper. I am Anclony on Twitter and Facebook, and I am having a GNT with the gin touillard from the Distillerie Fils du Roy.
And I, my friends, have a couple drinks. So this one is I'm Dolph, the president of the Alberta Scotch Society and creator of this, and I've got these cats to deal with on the side. That's all. That's all I gotta say. I'm doing gin and tonic, but I'm doing two different gins and tonics. So one that's more l'eau tonique aromatique. So this got a little bit, and you can tell the color on it. And then I did another one here, if I can get that. Back and forth I go. This one is also a fever tree, but it's just a traditional gin and tonic. And I just wanted to go back and forth and see how these tasted in comparison to each other. And then when I'm done that, because these go down very quickly, then, and they were with the gin touillard. Let's show you that. And they won some awards. So Sebastien, in a second, if you could tell us about the awards. And then l'eau doux is the other that I'm going to drink, which I like very well. If anyone else there has some of that, maybe we want to taste this all together as well. So Sebastien, just really quickly, the gin touillard, what did it win? Because I think it won 2 gold medals. Hopefully you can clarify there.
Yeah, the first medal we won was in 2013, so we were just at the beginning of our operation. And I submitted my absinthe, won silver. My pastis is silver, and my gin touillard double gold. So it means all the judge assigned a gold medal to the gin. So then I sent it again in 2014 and a gold medal, 2016 gold medal, 2018 double gold medal in 2019, and double gold this year in San Francisco. Same story in London. And so it won a lot of double gold and gold so far. So we're very happy about the product. It's a product that we love to produce. We love it. It takes a lot of time. It takes just to maturate 3 to 6 weeks before it's ready to bottle. So we take our time for that one.
And it's yummy and it's fantastic. And although I should have tasted it with nothing, to tell you the truth. Instead of with both of these, I should have had it on its own before it.
My suggestion would be to have it straight, and you pour 1 drop of water. and see the difference with and without the drop of water. You will see it.
So after I'm done both my cocktails and the l'eau doux, I'll have an extra one of that with the drop of water. That's okay. Or I'll have a whole one, then another one with just one little drop of water. I think it'll be a great night, Sebastien.
It's Saturday night.
Tell me about this one, please. This be the perfect time. Just go through all of them as we're doing it. So l'eau doux, which sounds like soft water as well. So maybe is there a double connotation there?
Yeah, l'eau doux, it was at the beginning. I was in 2013. I wanted in my dream to do whiskey one day. And I started to buy some barrels, a new barrel and a bourbon used barrel. And then I aged a whiskey that I produced in small quantity. And I aged it a year, but I needed cash flow to pay for the brewery and all the equipment. So I sold it as a grain spirit. And it was just a very limited amount, but there were lines at the distillery on the 1st of August, the 1er août, because it's the water of August. And then the year after, 2015, same thing. And now it's like a tradition. So this year in 2020, we have 360 bottles of Oudou. We already sold most of it. I think there's a couple of bottles that we hide at the back of the counter, but it's every year we produce it. So every year what I do is I have all my barrels, and we put we take everything from the top and we bring it down, and we fill up the barrel from the top. So it's always moving, and there's a little bit of every year since 2013 that we have produced that whiskey. So people really like it because they have some complexity. It tastes like a whiskey, but it's not legally be able to be called whiskey in Canada.
Here, I've got a picture of it too. Let's put this on, just because it relates to what I want Davin and Blair to talk about. So l'eau doux, and not a whole bunch of bottles, and I got one of them.
Yes.
I feel really special about that. But it's a Solera system is what you were describing. So if you go onto their site, you'll read this. It's in French. And if you can't, you can Google translate and maybe it'll make sense. But I'm going to ask Davin or Blair, can one of you also explain the Solera system with wine? Because I think, Sebastien, you said a replacement. Does it have to be a third? So you take out a third, you keep a third, and you have a third that you keep going through, or do you keep a different amount?
I keep a different amount. Normally, I will empty one barrel at the bottom, and then I will take. There's 2 barrels that I will put in, and then there's 4 barrels. So at the end, I will have the equivalency of 1 barrel on the top that I have to top up.
And how long have you been doing this now?
Since I started in 2013, but my first release was in 2014.
Okay, because the Solera or barrels are worth a lot of money in this. Well, not when you're buying them in Europe, so they can get over 100 years old for the Solera barrels. Is that what you're thinking? You're going to keep it going for as long as you can, pass it on to family and family?
Oh, my child already come here and asked me a lot of questions about those barrels. So I hope you will understand my instruction if I'm not there in the future.
Well, you always want to pass something down. I'm glad that your children care about what you do.
Yes.
Mine never wanted to be teachers. So it's like, be a teacher? No. Blair and Davin, do we know about any other notable Solera systems being used in Canada right now?
I think Stillhead in BC makes an apple brandy that they use the method with. The Nova Scotia Spirits Company in Nova Scotia, I think they also use the Solera method to blend their rums, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh. Okay.
And Davin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, oh man, who is it? Is there another whiskey in Canada that you know of?
No, I'm not aware of another one.
No.
I
think it's more common in brandy and rum than you see in whiskey.
Okay.
In Canada, that is. So
I think it's fantastic. But we'll talk about it more later. We'll taste more of it. And Blair, you did have a story. I think it's perfect time to talk about the story. So, did you want to have Sebastien talk about what you had in your glass?
Oh, well, yeah, he can talk about it after, sure. But yeah, he was talking about Bagasse in the previous episode,
right? And
there's different styles. It's sort of a catch-all word. And when we were in Edmonton and Eastern Quebec, they really get into. We met this guy that talked about making this style of Bagasse for family events. So it'd be like for weddings, for birthdays, and back way before Prohibition, they would distill or ferment and distill anything they had. So it could be sugar, apples, potatoes, anything, and they make
raisins.
Sort of clear, raisins. Yeah, clear. Well, that's something that's really cool. Is that, and they make a clear spirit for weddings. And we met these guys that allegedly, well, they claim they make it, and this is where it gets kind of weird, because they made it with sugar, and they would throw a handful of raisins into the mash, and they have no they have no background, right? So when they swelled up, they knew it was ready to be distilled, and that was their method for knowing that the fermentation was done, it was ready to be distilled.
Okay.
And so these guys, like, we had asked them, like they'd always talk about making Bagasse in the past tense. Like, you'd ask them, are you making any? He says, no, we're not making any today. And they kept saying, we don't make it today. We don't make it today. We don't make it today. Because we kept like nudging them, saying, we want to try some. And Davin and I were looking at each other and we're thinking, these guys, the reason why they don't make it today is because they probably made it yesterday. And they're very, very
evasive.
Yeah, it was very evasive and very, yeah. So anyways, so we learned about, in Prohibition, there was a smuggler named Maxime Albert, and he would smuggle Bagasse style spirit into the States, because right at Edmonton, it's going from...
You can walk to the States.
Yeah, you can walk to the States to the water, basically.
Okay.
So it was perfect for smuggling. And this guy, Maxime, he was very paranoid about going to hell, so to speak. He was very religious. So what he did was, with his smuggling money, he built a church in Edmonton, I think it was, or nearby. His daughters all became nuns. And what the priest did to reciprocate the building the church and giving his daughters to become nuns is that the priest declared that, yeah, bootlegging was illegal, but it wasn't a sin.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be punished for it. So we got to know these three guys. They had a still that they could run once a year, that was all taped up with really sketchy Canadian tape that was all sort of peeled back, and you could tell
Revenue Canada tape.
Yeah. This still, I don't want to get these guys in trouble, but you could tell it was running yesterday, so to speak.
Every day, except
yeah,
the day
so that was the style of Bagasse that we got to, and eventually we did get some, as Davin said, from this bar, and then we found out that Sebastien made a vodka called Grand Bagasse.
Right there, and
right
does
there.
it taste anything like it?
This is refined and delicious.
Okay.
We described the Bagasse we tasted as 12-gauge napalm.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Burning the tonsils out from the back. I got it.
Yeah, with lots of dirty socks in it. And I think that was due to their fermentation methods of throwing in raisins and waiting for them to swell up and to tell you that it was done.
All right. Well, maybe
Blair,
they didn't want to tell you they were fermenting. They were distilling, right? They just wanted to, okay. That's good.
perhaps. Some odors do linger. Blair and I were writing this adventure series for Whiskey Magazine, and we tended to do things that you wouldn't normally do, that often could lead to getting a black eye. And we're sitting in this bar, which turned out to was rougher than we thought, in Edmonton. We were asking these people, about Bagasse, and the waitress was very taken with Blair. And so she said, oh yeah, I know some guys who have Bagasse. So we got talking to these guys, and said, are you the cops? Are you the police? We said no. And then it was so they said, wait here. These guys took off, and they were gone for so long, and they came back eventually with 2 bottles of this Bagasse, 2 different batches. And they gave us, oh, wow, super, thank you. We're writing this story for Whisky Magazine. He said, we want something in return. Okay, so what do you want? Money? You want? We gave them a bottle of this very special Crown Royal Monarch. I don't know if you remember it. It was made for a very short time. It was very expensive. So we gave him that, and he said Crown Royal. I said, yeah, it's $75. So he's, oh, great. Okay, so they were happy to be. But before we gave it to them, we'd taken this bottle down to Maxime's grave and poured a little bit on his. We drank toast to Maxime, the bootlegger, and poured a little bit of this Crown Royal on his grave. So it was really quite an interesting story. But then when we found the Fils du Roy bagasse in the liquor store, it capped everything. And
okay.
so we had these stuff that was in pretty sketchy bottles, but we had Sebastien's bagasse, La Bagasse, it was called. In do you have the bottle there, Blair?
Yes.
And we which we ended up getting a feature in Whisky Magazine about this. So that was your first time in Whisky Magazine, I think, Sebastien.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow, that is the story.
What a story, eh?
That was more fun. And at one point we were really quite nervous that we might be in trouble.
Well, you're just admitting to buying some pretty illegal stuff there, Davin. No, you didn't buy it. You traded for it. I wonder if that's better.
Yeah, they gave it to us, and later we gave them something else.
Perfect. Good. That's how it all worked out. I'm going to go back to some. I had a couple questions that we didn't get to. I actually have like 4 pages of questions we didn't get to, but I picked one. So I'm going to stick at this one that I still want. But I can't show the videos to go with it, but I can at least do this. So there's Sebastien Fils du Roy, and it's tourism is who he's kind of linked with as well. It's one of the other jobs or 3 other jobs he was talking about. So the video, in this video, it's a great video if you could watch it. It's in French. It's got the English subtitles, and it's nice. It gave Sebastien a chance to talk about his distillery's growth prior to COVID, the distillery's role during COVID, and what he wanted to achieve this summer and beyond. And all this in relation to tourism in New Brunswick. And so based on that video, and Sebastien, you know what video I'm referring to, right?
I think so.
Okay, well, hopefully this will ring a bell as well. My next 3 questions are based on that video, if we could see it. Now, you listed a whole bunch of accomplishments, extensions to your distillery, starting with the initial purchase of the 18.5 by 9 foot distillery with your mother for $36,000. So that's how you started it. But you had a whole list of other things that you did. So can you tell us about the most notable subsequent additions? Because, and you've mentioned a few already, but just talk about how you've grown, but the biggest jumps that you've made and stuff you've added.
I would say the biggest jump I made is to purchase a brewery, a 10-barrel brewery,
okay,
with the intention to fundraise production of whiskey. That
you also have the laboratory working on yeast. So are you talking about the malt house or the
yeah, that's where I'm coming. So I purchased a 10-barrel brewery to produce beer, for the beer to fundraise production of whiskey. For when the whiskey would start to bring some funds or revenue, to be able to purchase a malt house. It will be a 5-ton malt per 6 days. So I need to put 6, and then you have 5 tons. And to have a lab to produce our own yeast, to have a total control on each step of production. That's what we are now. But my ultimate goal is to have the first kilt that use biomass, peat moss, to be the first producer of peated malt with Canadian malt. New Brunswick is the first producer of peat moss in Canada, the second biggest producer of peat moss in the world. So I really want to be the peated malt producer in America.
That sounds so cool, because this was also part of, so this is the background in your video. But what caught my eye was, good looking guy, nice everything, but this caught my eye, the single malt peated whiskey. So, really interesting. Where did you get that peat? Because that's not the one you're talking about now that you want to produce. That's one you've gotten in the past.
Yeah. What I do, I started by malting on the floor, and I used my boiling room to dry the malt.
Okay.
So then I produced like a type of a kiln. It's smaller. It can have probably 50 kilos of barley. Then I dry it with a log of peat moss from Tabousine, Texas, very close from here. And that's how I had my peat moss, my peatlet malt.
Okay. So
a lot of work for one barrel of whiskey.
I don't have any friends in New Brunswick, so I need Sheila to actually go there soon so she could pick stuff up for us, because I love peat. I truly do. And I like having peat from different places around the world. And I've had Italian peat. I've had Canadian peat from Saskatchewan, which is fairly interesting. And in Canada to the west, we have peat as well. So I'm really looking forward to trying your peat as well. That's my number one thing I want to try is the peat. So I'm waiting for that with bated breath. All right. The next thing in this video, what you were doing now. So at the time of the video, you were doing hand sanitizer and soap. And you said you're done with hand sanitizer. You're not going to continue that anymore. Why did you say you would continue soap? Is it because you get to create? Is it more fun? Is it more linked to distilling somehow? I don't know.
The soap, I would say first of all, my mother really liked to do the soap. So that really, that is one thing. She's the one that's producing it. But the soap was an idea during the COVID to fundraise money for food banks. And right now, the food bank need a lot of food here in New Brunswick. So we do soap. We give some to some of the store. They sell it. They take the money, and then they send food to a food bank, or credit that the food bank can buy what they need. Sometimes it's very specialized food for different reasons. So those soap go back to the community. We believe that we are here because of our community. Eventually, we need to give back to the community, and soap was one of the reasons. And during COVID, we believe that everyone, whatever you have money or not, should have soaps. So if someone wants soap, you can have one. We will give it away.
And the link to one of your jobs in the past as well, right? Because with the food bank, how did that link to your government job, I think, that you had?
Yes, I was a program delivery manager for the Department of Social Development. The program I was managing was NB Housing. The team that take care of the house, the maintenance team, was responsible for social assistance and the call center that take the calls from the applicant to apply for social assistance and the housing. So I was often in the community working with poor people, often to food banks. So I serve a lot of food in food banks during my lunchtime. I try to be in the community, to see, to hear, to understand, and for that, it's not in the office. You need to be in the community. So I did a lot of home visit. I saw a lot of people, and I don't fully understand poverty, but I can tell you that I saw probably more than the common people saw poverty. So I think it's important that each of us that should give back to their community.
And I like that. It's admirable. You're working for it. You work for tourism. You do stuff for tourism. You do stuff for the other distributors or distillers or brewers in the region. So you're working there, but you're still giving back in that sense. And a lot of distilleries we talked to gave back with the hand sanitizer, but you're continuing with this. And I like the link that you have from the previous job. Everything we do forms us, right? And so you're still giving back. I like that a lot. Blair and Davin, in the same vein of what's going on now, we're gonna go with both of you, because I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I want to kind of bring it into focus now what you guys are doing. So Davin, I've seen you online quite a bit lately. You've been talking to whiskey groups, I've saw you on TV. I know you don't like the interview on TV, but we've seen you on TV. You're out there. Can you tell us what you're up to now? Like you're not writing or you are writing? Help me out.
Well, I'm writing all the time. I'm doing a story for Bounder magazine about the LCBO. I'm doing a story for Relish and Whiskey about cask strength whiskey. I've just finished my presentation for Tales of the Cocktail, which will be, I guess tomorrow you can sign up for it. You have to join Tales of the Cocktail in New Orleans. And what else is going on? I'm getting ready for 40 Creek weekend and things like that. So yeah, I'm telling you, honestly, Dolph, I'm a freelance writer. I write from home. Nothing changed for me in terms of work with COVID, except that I can't get out to visit people and to visit distilleries. But the work is still there. It's more dealing with the other end, where people are working from home and things like that. So for writers, we're still pretty busy.
Good. That's good to know. No, tell me a bit more about 40 Creek weekend. What will you be doing that weekend? Is it visiting or is it online?
Well, I think that Chris Thompson is going to release the details over the next couple of weeks. Okay. It's at the end of September, and Blair and I are doing some moderation there.
Cool. And Blair, the next question's to you, but it's the same question. Although it's going to be a little bit different because you have a young family that you're devoting a lot of your time to. So what are you doing to fill up the 1 hour of free time you have a night?
Well, that's the problem. Like Davin was talking about how he's still quite busy, but Whiskey Magazine is currently on a kind of they're still on a schedule, but it's kind of reduced right now. And Gin Magazine is on hold. I'm also doing something for the next issue of Relish and Whiskey about just sort of an international roundup of different whiskeys coming out this fall.
Okay.
But yeah, it's and our website, CanadianDistilleries.com, trying to get on top of that and get some new spirits written up and reviewed.
Question of both of you with the CanadianDistilleries.com, because I see it a lot. What are you trying to do? What's the aim with that website? What's your focus?
The focus is to sell books with it and to have it's a home for the book. But at the same time, we're trying to get caught up in all the spirits that we got to try over the past couple of years and all the new ones that are coming out. And it's a mammoth undertaking to try to get all these written up into really tight, concise pieces. So it's something we're working on, and we're hoping that soon we'll be able to get this New Ireland up on the website. And
that's going to be good.
and a bunch of
also some of the, putting new distilleries on there as well, so that it's sort of to keep the book up to date. In the book we refer people to go to the website for what's happened since the book has been published.
Okay. And I've asked you this before, but I thought you would have had a lot more information written that was cut out of the book that you would be putting in those articles. But you're saying really most of these articles are brand new. It's not stuff that was cut. It's stuff that's coming up now. Is that correct?
Yeah, we don't really want to use the stuff that was cut because we don't really know what's going to happen with it. Okay. So this is all brand new content for sure.
Alrighty. And
it's the same with everything. The stuff that doesn't get used, often there's a reason why it doesn't get used. You go through and the best stuff gets into the magazine or into the book, and the other stuff, and we try to always produce, A-list material.
It's kind of hard when you're a writer, though, because you create something and you think it's important and you think it's fantastic until I don't know how many other people tell you it's not. When I was writing my master's thesis, something like that, I thought stuff should be in there. My wife read it. It's like, no, get rid of this. Get rid of this. It's like, it's my baby. Don't get rid of it.
Yeah, I don't really care what other people think because, honestly,
I have to care what my wife thinks. She's right beside me.
Yeah. Super. I think there are things that are important to say, and as a writer, I tend to say them 5 times too large, and then we cut back and just get down to what the nut of it is. I mean, you can say a lot. I have to say, when I did my first book,
Mhm.
The first draft was 115,000 words. No, not that one.
Oh, the first edition or a different book?
This one.
The first
this one.
edition.
First edition, but it was just and the editor said, that's great, and this is all good material, but we're going to have to charge $40 for it if it's 115,000 words, and if you can get it down to $25, then people will buy more. So I cut it back to 65,000 words, and it's a better book, and I didn't have to cut out any information, just had to condense it. So writing is it's a process, and you don't ever get it right the first time. You really have to. The only shortcut that Blair and I have really is each other, because we're merciless with each other's work. Just get rid of, if something doesn't work, bang, it's gone. And we put comments and explain why we don't like something, but it's very helpful. So that working together, we can work more quickly, but we still have to go through 5 drafts before we get something that's worth publishing. And the stuff that fell away, half the time I just erase it.
Sheila, how about you? Because Sheila, in case no one knew, it was working on her doctorate. Just tell us where you are in your doctorate and the writing process, because I'm kind of interested. It's all linking together, kind of.
My doctorate, it's yeah. I just finished my candidacy proposals and got it approved. So I am currently in the position where I'm in hurry up and wait for approvals for ethics to move forward. So I've put everything in to get permission to move forward and start asking people for all of the thoughts in their heads. Because I am doing my PhD study and research is in the experiences of people with brain injuries in online learning. So we currently have all of these wonderful online learning experiences that are happening.
Yeah.
So it's a prime time to start talking to people about what their experiences are in online learning. And we have very little study that happens out there with people who have experienced brain injury and what their experiences are in the online learning environment. So how do they manage with the different technologies that are out there? So when we have videos that are happening and all of the different inputs, so when you have audio happening at the same time as video, is that distracting? Are they actually paying attention? Are they able to grasp what's happening? The different techniques that are used, are they able to manage the different inputs? And are they learning quicker? Does different technologies work for them better? So the few studies that have happened, they talk to teachers, they talk to the instructional designers, they talk to people who have studied the theory. Nobody's actually asked students who are going into these courses about their experience and what's working and what's not working and why. So my PhD is going to focus on the experiences of the students who are going through these projects.
We're going to switch gears. I'm going to switch it to beer. But Sheila, if you could look on the side, see if there's a question I can ask Sebastien Roy or Davin.
I do have a question. Dave is really interested in knowing if Sebastian's going to be selling his peat or his peated malt across Canada.
Dave Sebastien, by the way, is a brand ambassador for 2 brewers. And so 2 brewers.
So there's probably an interest behind that.
Yeah, so you might want
question. Yes.
So for peat, first of all, we want to see if the Canadian peat we have here in New Brunswick, what it will produce. And after that, we need to learn how to, it's not by copying what is produced in Europe, for example, that we will have the right flavor for the type of peat. We don't have the same peat moss than in Europe. So we need to do a lot of research and development. But once we're ready, peat moss is not a problem here in New Brunswick, where we are in the north of the province. And barley is something we're working on. We have 200 acres of land that we're harvesting right now, but we want to increase. So yes, eventually it would be a lifetime achievement, but to sell peat moss in other provinces, especially in Quebec, where is my other distillery, is something I would like to achieve in my life. Honestly, I would need 2 lives just to achieve half of what I want to achieve. So I will see.
I believe that.
That's a good problem to have, Sebastien. It's fantastic. But when you're playing with the peat, I'm wondering what you're trying to establish. So how to prepare the peat? Is it the temperature you're smoking? Is it how long you do it with the barley? I'm wondering what variables you think you're playing with.
Yeah, the first thing is how we can maximize the flavor of our peat moss we have around here.
Okay.
We have Spanx peat moss. It's a different. It's not aging as much as the European peat moss. So how we can get the best of that peat moss, and we will probably need to use other technique. But first, before talking about peat moss, I need to really understand how to malt the barley appropriately, and then at which stage I should dry it. And should I dry it with 2 steps, one smoking and then dry it, or should I dry and smoke at the same time? That's why one of my business partner in the malt house and the lab is Dr. Boudreau, José Boudreau. She's a chemist. She has a PhD in chemistry, and she is the detail. I am the concept, and she is the detail to every concept I'm bringing. So together as a team of and co-owner of that malt house, we really believe we can succeed. Again, it's a lifetime achievement. So I give myself another 15 years to find a malt, a barley that will be the right barley to dry with Canadian peat moss.
Oh, it's good to have smart friends too, though, isn't it?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Right, Sheila? That's why we have you. Bright people around.
It's very good to have smart friends.
Yeah.
And you were talking about taking. Well, we know that the beer gets distilled into the whiskey. And we're wondering, have you experimented with any of your other beers and distilling them into whiskey? Perhaps your spruce beer.
Yes, actually, in 2000, the one at the bottom, the Connecticut Flyer, it's my first beer I have produced in 2014, and we use a freezing distillation. It's a ice beer. It's in Germany it's Eisbock. So instead of using the boiling point like I do with the still, I'm using the freezing point. So alcohol freeze at minus 144 degrees Celsius, sugar around 60, and water at 0. I put my fermenter at -8 for a few weeks, and water crystallized and pushed to the interior what is not freezing, and then I capture the interior, and then I distill it with a boiling point. So it produces a spirit that is very interesting. The malt is very concentrate because of the freezing distillation. It's very flavorful. I have a barrel, but that's a beer with a little bit of hop in it. The hop with time tend to, when I tasted last time, was 2 years ago, it diminished. And that's what we need. We don't want the hop to be bitter in the spirit. Okay. So there's a potential for future to reproduce that, but without the hop, and then it will be a single malt whiskey.
Nice. With your beer, so here's 10 beers. Are these your core range of beers, or are these one-offs?
Yes, I can start by the first one, the North Shore Regimen. Sorry, you can put it up. The North Shore Regimen. Yep. It's the regimen from the north of New Brunswick. When you see the video of the Second World War, when they get out of the boat to go on in Normandy.
Yes.
And go out of the boat and you see guys and their bullet
shot. Yeah.
That is they were filming the North Shore Regiment coming out of the boat. That was the North Shore Regiment.
Okay.
The main street is called North Shore Regiment there in France. So that is a barley wine. It's 11.99% alcohol because at 12% I paid the excise duty of the spirits. So at 11.99 I paid $3 approximately for 100 liters of beer, but at 12% it's close to $13 per liter. So
well, that's why barley wine's so expensive. I love barley wine, and it lasts for so long. I've got some at 5-6 years right now, but at one point I'm having more and more. I like comparing them. So,
and the other beer, very quickly, that you were showing, Stella Maris. Stella Maris is the name of the star on the Acadian flag. It's a bière de garde. It's a beer that it was made to be kept for 5 to 10 years. Messe Blanche means white mass.
Yep.
It tells the story of the first Acadian that arrived there after they were trying to escape the deportation from the British. They were not able to have a priest. It was too dangerous. It was war. So it's the Acadian that were doing the mass, and a mass without the priest is a white mass, and that is the story. And then I have an oyster stout. It's called Beau Soleil, and Captain Craig is a brown. And below or higher, there's a two beer that are very interesting. Is Evangeline and Gabrielle. Those two beers have been created to be united together in the same glass. It's a cocktail of two beer. Evangeline is a strong nut brown, and that was produced in 2017 for the 170th anniversary of the poem of Henry W. Longfellow. It's an American that wrote a poem called Evangeline. And in the paragraph 320, he wrote that Evangeline, like the lamb on the table, and fill a glass until it overflow of a nut brown famous for its strength in Grand Pré. And that was fictive. But I did a beer style, and I share it with many breweries. And 12 answered to the call, and they produced the style for the anniversary. 2 of those breweries were in Louisiana. After that, we have Grand Barbe. It's a wheat beer. And Lady Chaga is a beer made with a mushroom that grows on tree, Chaga, that the natives were using to produce tea to stay young. And Caraquet Flower is my ice beer.
Okay.
They're all sweet and very malty.
You know what? Your beers are they're unique, and I buy a lot of beer. I buy a lot of everything apparently. So I made beer recently. So I made a pumpkin beer. I made an Oktoberfest. I love yours in as much as the complexity, because my favorite beer is a Doffelbock. I call it Doffelbock instead of Doppelbock. It's a great beer and very complex, but lots of grain and very expensive. If you look at your beers, that's a high mash grain bill that you're using for all of them. So that's very expensive beers. I wonder, is it because you like to experiment so much that you have those beers as opposed to trying to make a Pilsner, which isn't easy to make well, but you make more money on a Pilsner than you would with those, would you not?
Yes. I like to leave a trace. Everything I do, I like to leave a trace. I have a lot of barrels for scholarship for the future. Even after I will be gone, those scholarships should stay there. There will be nice scholarship. Paint about Acadian that have no face, and I'm trying to produce those face again to leave a trace. And after I'm just here, and I will be gone eventually, and those things will stay. And my beer, I like to do strong beer, malty beer, because you can keep them. You can keep them. I went to when I was a beer hunter to Belgium, to a bar Culminator. It was in Entrop, and I tried 1972 Chimay, and then after that, 1969. Westervelen, and I was just very, very amazed that those flavors were older than me, and that inspired me. And I'm trying to produce product that you can keep in your cellar, and in 2035, when you will decide to open it, it will be good.
That's really great. And when I lived in Belgium for 3 years, that's where I gained my appreciation for good beer, and I like that idea. And have you done a Christmas beer? I'm wondering, because that's in Belgium.
I will do one this year. It will be the first beer produced from all the ingredients produced from one site. So I have grown 3 years ago hop, and I'm harvesting right now. I will produce my own yeast. I will trying to get it from bee we have a 75 beehive from his stomach. The bee have a lot of yeast in their stomach to ferment the beer, and the barley will be from here too. So every ingredient will be transformed and prepared from our site. It will be called probably Noël Doiran. If you do a research, that guy was a hero for the Acadian, and preparing the paint for him. He don't have any face. There was even theater, the pièce de théâtre. They were doing like plays about the story of the British, because they found the sacrifice he did was remarkable.
Yeah. Well, you talked about cultivating, so I'm going to go to these questions here. So we've got yours. So that's New Brunswick, and over here we've got Quebec grain.
That's New Brunswick too.
That's New Brunswick as well? Oh,
yeah.
I thought this was your brother's distillery.
No, that's just my dryer. It's a 150-ton dryer for barley.
Okay. Well, my question still stands. Do you exchange grain ever? So do you just want to have New Brunswick grain for your distillery, and your brother will just have Quebec Alge barley?
Yes.
And never an exchange?
We could do type of blend after that it's malted. I like currently all my barley grow at around 5 kilometers from the sea. So I'm trying to, especially where it's windy from inside the land, I want to have a soil that is salty to try to have a malt with character. And we do a how you call that? Single pot still whiskey. It's a mix of malted barley and just barley from the field. But the barley from the field is very fresh. It's the same day we take out, we clean it, and then we bring it inside. And that same day, the brewer is waiting for the beer to be made with that barley. So we really try to exploit the flavor of barley produced very close from the sea. But Quebec would be other flavor. It would probably be beside the Saint Laurent River, and that would give other complexity.
And you're talking about terroir now, and I want to include Davin and Blair into this conversation. So I'm gonna read some of their stuff in a second. But Blair and Davin, I need your stance on terroir, and I think we've talked about it, but I don't know if we have online for whiskey, or because I think we've talked about it in the after Dram. If there is terroir in whiskey, Sebastien believes it. You've written about it, but I want to know how much you think actually continues in the spirit. Blair and Davin, either one, please, consirs.
I'll let Davin field this one.
Well, I think that there can be terroir in distilled spirits if the distiller decides in advance that they're going to emphasize the elements of a particular grain or a particular terrain or so on. I think if you're looking at large distilleries which buy grain as a commodity, terroir, it doesn't exist. You know, because some distilleries they'll distill with wheat when that's the cheapest grain, and they'll switch and distill with corn when that's cheaper, and so on. Scotland in particular, I'm thinking of. But I think that a distiller who wants to emphasize terroir can certainly do so, and they do this primarily by selecting grain and other elements, for example, in a gin, other botanicals and things like this, that come from a particular area. And I just have no problem with that. You can terroir can become an element of the house style for a distiller who decides that they are going to emphasize particular area. Look at Montfort, 141 from
Shelter Point.
Shelter Point. Honestly, it tastes like Vancouver Island, and I think that it's real. But most distillers, I mean, it's expensive, and you also have to spend time thinking about it. And if you're a large production distillery, and this year you're getting your corn from Ontario, and next year you're getting your corn from Chicago, and next year you're getting your corn from someplace else, what's the point?
Yeah.
But for a guy like Sebastien, or some of these guys out west, it's very real.
Well,
look at Waterford in Ireland. Their whole thing is terroir.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm going to quote this from Sebastien from your website. The small family distillery cultivates several ingredients to ensure quality spirits. Great. The care that we put into our gardens is reflected in the unique taste of our local products. The climate of the region plays an important role in the taste and personality of our different spirits. So you're alluding to terroir, but then Davin and Blair do this as well. They talked about it more specifically. And it says this, and the following from Blair and Davin's article refer to terroir. So Roy, I can't find it. I'll read it. Roy also strives to have his spirits reflect the nature of the land, what whiskey makers elsewhere are beginning to call terroir. And they quote you as saying, all of the farmers who supply our grain are within 5 kilometers of the sea, which you just said before. We find that gives it a malt and good mineral quality. So I think, Sebastien, you believe in terroir with distillation. Do you find a difference with your barley and the Quebec barley in the final product? So I think now would be a great time to talk about what you and your brother did, and with the same grain or the same recipe. I can't remember which one you said, because it was the same grain and then the water making a difference. It would be great if that was the only variable. So how many variables changed?
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot. For example, for absinthe, when we produce our absinthe, the wormwood, my brother, I don't know what he do to his wormwood, but he's very tall. So I'm trying to understand his trick. Mine is lower, and normally mine will flower quicker, so I harvest very early. We have a very distinctive taste in the wormwood, and then the isopus is even worse. And then you look at the Melisse, and I can go on for each botanic.
Okay.
There's a person behind that supervise the botanic to grow and decide when to harvest or when not to harvest. And just that, even if it's the same species, just that, because it grow here, and for my absinthe, and absinthe in English is wormwood. We grow the wormwood here, and he grow his wormwood, and that make a big difference. But let's say I would take his wormwood and I would bring it here. Still, it will not taste the same, as we don't have the same nose, we don't have the same water, and more you add about all those little botanics, the complexity and the flavor became very different. And I think we can talk about the terroir, and that is just to flavor a spirit. Even if you buy alcohol neutral, just to flavor it, you can grow a lot around your distillery. And then when you produce your alcohol and then you flavor it, then you're at another level of terroir.
Do you think I'd be able to taste your spirits after a while, yours and your brother's side by side, something that was very similar or the same, and be able to say that tastes like Northern Quebec, this tastes like New Brunswick? Do you think I'd be able to, or someone with a better nose?
You would really impress me if you would be able to do so. There's a difference, but can you identify the difference? Maybe if you drink a lot of warm absinthe from different places around the planet, and you understand each complexity of the botanic. But at the end, I don't think it's important to identify, but more to appreciate the difference between the two.
All right. Thank you very much. It's good. I'm going to do another quote because this one really surprised me, Sebastien. And I was surprised when I read the following. I hate doing the same thing, to produce something following the same routine. I say this because I've heard so many times that distilling is a search for consistency. So can you put this in context for me? I want to know, are you looking for consistency, quality versus creativity? Can you get both? And once you get something that's really, really good and you've done really well with it, don't you want consistency?
Yes, in the context that I said it, and it's true, you need consistency. But let's say in 2012, I got my recipe for gin tuya.
Yep.
I distilled it for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years later, and still distillating gin tuya. No, that is not for me. Eventually, I need to have a list of control that I create so that I can be a specialist to give that task to someone, and he understand very clearly what to do, what not to do, why to do it, and why not to do those things. And all the error I did, that person need to understand those error. And so to be able to teach to someone, for that person to do gin tuya and for me to create, because that's what is my passion. I don't like to go to work every day and do the same time every day over and over, year after year. Tomorrow I'm distillating raspberry brandy. Monday I will distillate something else. So I will probably load the silo, and so I like to always to learn to learn and to create from what I learn. So that's why I have difficulty with routine. I prefer adventure and unknown and errors and troubleshooting.
Good. And I'm glad you do. Well, the more I taste, the gladder I'll be at that point. Lady and gentlemen, I'd like you to talk about what's in your glass right now. We've got a couple minutes. So Sheila, what did you have in your glass and what do you think?
Well, I had the gin and tonic, but then I went back to have the lodu, and it's really nice. I don't have very much of it left because I was sipping away at it because it was really nice.
I love the nose. It's so soft.
I know. And I was just reading on Twitter, of all places. I don't remember who had written the article, but there was a little bit of a discussion yesterday about how they needed to get away from the word smooth when they're using it as a descriptor in whiskey. But it really is smooth.
Well, and there's
Wayne Curtis wrote that. Wayne Curtis is one of the few writers who I read religiously.
Okay.
Wayne, David Wondrich, and Dave Broom are the three best spirits writers alive today.
Love Broom.
Well, I'm going to disagree with him today.
Well, you're allowed, but is the smoothness an oily smoothness? Is it buttery? Is it light like a wheat whiskey type thing? Because you've had all of those, Sheila.
Well, it's light and delicate, and it just kind of slides down really nice. But I think it is because it's the grain whiskey. So,
Sebastien, this is 1 year old. No, because this is the Solera system. Sorry, so it could be up to 7 years old.
Exactly.
Right.
But there's a 1 year old in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's lovely. How about you, Davin?
Well, I'm drinking a gin smash. It's got some cranberries and some lemon and lime in it. It's just it's a really quite enjoyable drink. Yeah.
And you had the gin in it. What did the gin contribute to your drink? Is it unique compared to, because I know that you like a lot of what's it called?
To be quite honest, I used gin from a different distillery because I finished my bottle of gin toya, and I finished my bottle of bagasse as well. And I don't know why I threw out the empty bottles, but I did. Normally, I keep the empty bottles in case I might want to use them later for a picture. So I'm using a different gin, but yeah. I think after drinking 5 Fils du Roy whiskeys tonight in the book club session, I just wanted something, so I'm drinking an RTD, which I pulled out of the fridge.
And Sebastien, this does have juniper, but it's subdued. It's lovely gin. And I just started drinking gin 14 weeks ago, whenever this started. That was my very first gin. So this is lovely.
It's 75% juniper. There's a 10% coriander, and the rest is a lot of different botanics that finish. As I said, the mineral from the water is very high, so we have to let it sit for the extra mineral to settle down. Then we take out the gin after 3 to 6 weeks, and we bottle.
Nice.
Mineral are very important.
Yeah.
If I ever try to make gin, I'll remember. Blair, do you still have something left in your glass? Every time I ask you, it's gone.
Well, I've switched to Toronto's finest tap water right here.
Okay.
But you know, I was really enjoying this Grand Bagos. It's got a bit of a sweet marshmallow taste to it. It's the smooth vodka I've had in my life.
How quaint of you to say that.
Yeah, very smooth. But I love it. I recommend anyone in New Brunswick to pick up the Grand Bagos, and if you're in Quebec, to pick up the, I believe, Sebastien, it's the Grand Bagos Al Capone.
Yeah, that's how my brother wanted to name it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem with the Fredericton Whiskey Festival being canceled this year. That's when I pick up my New Brunswick spirits.
Yeah.
But you know, when I was anyway, next year.
Sebastien, do you sell online?
I asked the question to NB Liquor if we were allowed to send online, especially outside New Brunswick.
Right.
I mean, it's still a great question. We should, as we are all Canadian, and we should be able to sell to other Canadian, to me, but it's more complicated than that. So I don't have still a straight answer.
All right. Here's a question for Davin specifically, because well, you're in Ottawa. Can you drive to Hull or get things available? Like, do they have a really good selection in Hull Gatineau for the things available in Quebec that's not available in Ontario? Because I think if I was a store over there, I would do that.
Yes, I do prefer to go to Quebec to buy. Well, they have a lot of Quebec micro spirits. They also have a much better selection of red wine.
Oh yeah, I would get that.
You know, honestly, it's a 20-minute drive or 10-minute drive, and it's completely different. What do you think, Blair? You go over to Quebec to buy booze sometimes?
Yeah, they're man. I was just there actually, and the gin aisle is nuts. Like it's not a gin section. It's a gin. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's they kind of have everything, like all the Quebec stuff up front and center, relatively, and then you have your regular stuff, but they really, I think it's because people in Quebec want to taste Quebec spirits, so they put them out in front of people, just because there's a demand. I don't know if I'm correct, Sebastien, but it seems that they seem to really put their products up front and center.
You're right. They put a lot of indicia on Quebec province.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, more than other province. And I think that's the right thing to do for every province.
Should be, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I think it really should be, to tell you the truth, you should support your, well, and the book does, and that's kind of been our focus. We did have Wiser's and we did have 40 Creek, but really everyone else in here, micro distillers, they might have been around for a little while or the best at what they're doing right now within their provinces. But all these guys, they're working hard to push their product within that scheme, within their province. I'm wondering if, oh, sorry. You're blocking out for a second. I'm wondering how how easy it is to get stuff from. Are you allowed to go from Quebec to Ontario and Ottawa? Because I think that I would go there a lot. And I don't know, in Alberta, you're not supposed to bring stuff across the border to BC, but I'm bringing things to friends in BC. I'm sending stuff in the mail that they signed for. I'm wondering if that's a problem, and if what Sebastien's doing now, should he worry about going online? Because so many people are sending stuff online from one province to the other. Oh, and if it's different, if it's a gift to a business, maybe.
That's a question for a lawyer.
Okay. Well, you know more than me, so I was going up the chain a little bit, so I got to figure it out. But Sebastien, I'm really hoping that I could get your stuff online one day. I really am.
Don't worry, me too. There would be a big market if New Brunswick company could sell its product to other Canadian provinces. I have a little question, if I may. It's for Davin and Blair. They have been around with the different version of the books they wrote for many years. How can they keep up with all those distilleries that grow every month around the Canada? There's like a renaissance, and just to keep up with every distillery that open is probably just a full-time job just there.
It's a lot of work, but you know what? It's also interesting. And, you know, for me, I follow the social media. Blair and I talk regularly about new distilleries and things like that. And every now and then we do a little sweep just to see, you know, what's new and what's out there. But most people, when they start a distillery, they want to get noticed. And so they're on Twitter and Instagram, and, you know, you see what's going on, and we get in touch with them. You're right. Our website is not quite as up to date as it should be with new distilleries. But yeah, I don't think there are very many out there that we're not aware of. But I have to tell you, Sebastien, when we started writing this book, or when we first pitched the book, there were 130 distilleries. And as you probably saw, there are 257 in the book. So it grew like that. Was the year of logarithmic growth. It slowed down quite a bit since then. And so yeah, you know, there's a reason I'm bald.
Well, and he loves what he does too, and it's not work if you love what you do, right there, Davin?
Yeah, that's my only job.
And the amount of people you get to talk to is phenomenal. I love that. It's really admirable what you do. So, gentlemen and lady, we're at the hour and 7-minute mark, so we passed that time as well. We're going to do some last comments, and we'll do Davin, Blair, Sheila, and Sebastien. We'll finish with you for any last comments, and then we're going to wrap it up, and then we'll do our after Dram and stick around so we can talk for a bit. But Davin, you're first.
For travelers, armchair travelers who want to know where all the distilleries are in Canada, the definitive guide to Canadian distilleries. We have maps to tell you where they all are, to show you where they all are, and recommendations if you're at one distillery, where to go next.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sebastien, for coming on today. That was fantastic. Catching up on your story.
And Sheila?
I'm going to say, of course, buy the book because it's fun to go to the distilleries. And thank you very much, Sebastien, for coming on. I look forward to coming to visit your distillery when I finally do get to come home.
Oh.
Yeah, I would like to say thank you to all of you to promote distilleries that are in Canada. You are like the champions of our industry to promote us.
They are.
For me, it was an honor to have a discussion with you guys. And please continue your great job to keep up with the list of distilleries that are growing in my country and to promote it the way you're doing it. Thank you very much.
Merci, Sebastien. And thank you to you for coming on. Thank you for the panel. It's been great. Another great night. So a memorable episode, like I always say, hopefully one that absolutely everyone else enjoyed as much as I did. So here we go. Cheers to everybody. Here's to good company. Here's to good whiskey. Oh, here's my whiskey. Sorry. Here's to good whiskey. Here's to good cocktails. Here's to good books.
I feel like I'm dull.
And here's to good conversation. Is that a shot? Feels like
I'm double fisting. Sorry.
And here's to seeing you all at a new time again next week, Saturday, September 5th, for our Whisky Book Club Canadian Whiskey Journey. We're going back to Quebec to Distillerie Saint-Laurent, and it's page 241 on the book. And I'm really happy he came. So cheers to everybody. À votre santé. And I will see you all in 1 week. Thanks so much.